Hi, I'm the Rocky Mountains Dr. Jackson Crawford. On my channel about Norse language and myth, I often deal with these sort of actually facts that aren't very actually, but have become popular either in popular culture or among scholars even. And today I just want to give a quick take on one of these actually facts that's not actually, and that is the notion that Old Norse has no word for the color blue. Now, of all topics in Norse language and myth, the topic of color may be the one that I'm most qualified to speak on, given that as part of the most questionable decision of my life to get a PhD in Scandinavian studies, I wrote a dissertation on how Old Norse categorizes color. And as near as I can tell, the notion that Old Norse has no word for blue comes from the fact that in Old Norse poetry, not even in prose, but in Old Norse poetry, ravens are called blue, using the Old Norse word blor. Black is svartar. Now in prose, ravens are svartar, or black. Why would ravens be called blue in poetry? Well, take a damn look at ravens. Ravens have a blue sheen to their feathers. It could be indigo, but Old Norse has no word for indigo, so that's still blue. If you look at them closely under certain lights, in fact under most lights I find. Living in the American West, I see ravens all the time, sometimes very up close, and I am definitely struck by the fact that they can be described as blue. Edward Abbey, one of the great writers of the 20th century in the American West, referred to ravens as blue-black in many of his writings, including Desert Solitaire. So ravens being called blue in poetry is not a reason to think that the word for blue is just another word for black, given that blue and black do contrast. I hear a raven right this moment. Blue and black do contrast in Old Norse. So in eye color, Old Norse has two color terms that it uses in the sagas, and those are blor and svartar. Now, we tend to think there's more than just two eye colors. But this being Scandinavia, I'm going to take a wild guess and say that one of those colors must mean blue. That being the case, I'm going to suspect that it's the one that comes to mean blue in the later Scandinavian languages, as blor from Old Norse comes to be blaur in modern Icelandic, and then blå in the continental languages, meaning blue, whereas svartar becomes svart, meaning black. Now, probably what the quote-unquote black eyes, svartar eyes mean is brown, given that Old Norse does have relatively few categories for colors, and brown seems to be part of the black category. That doesn't mean that Old Norse speakers perceived fewer colors, only that they categorized them as parts of fewer top-level categories, right? English is considered to have about 11 top-level categories, but we have many smaller categories within those. So for instance, crimson is a type of red, or turquoise is a type of blue, right? Those aren't top-level categories. Old Norse has very few top-level categories. In fact, notice that Snorri Sturluson says that the rainbow has 3 colors. That's because from an Old Norse speaker's perspective, orange and yellow are kinds of red, and then indigo and purple are kinds of blue. So what you're seeing when you look at the rainbow, they see all the same differences, but they only categorize the colors as 3 different ones: red, green, and blue. And there's different shades of red and different shades of blue in it. Just like me looking out over this mountain forest, I see different shades of green, even if I don't have words for them, but I can say this is a lighter green, this is a darker green, that sort of thing. So when you read sagas, unfortunately, given how incredibly persnickety people can be about translating word for word in some of these saga translations, people will just ignore the difference between blor, blue, and svartar, black. when they often contrast even in the sagas. So for example, in the description of the witch or Volva who foresees the end of the famine in the saga of Eric the Red, she's wearing some blue and some black garments, and there may be significance to those. Or the fact that when people go to kill, they so often dress in blue in Old Norse is obscured when all the translators translate that as black, because I think that's just playing into our notion that you dress in black to do something sort of quote-unquote dark, when in fact it looks more like they're dressing up. They're literally dressing to kill. They're wearing a very expensive dye, the blue woad dye, because killing is essentially a public act in this society, right? The thing that makes a killing murder isn't a lack of justification, it's a lack of public admission. So you're going to wear your best clothes, you're really going to dress to kill. I think it's just kind of absurd that people have really latched on to this Old Norse has no blue color simply because they call ravens blue in poetry. I mean, to me, that's such an obvious thing when you look at ravens. But it's persistent, and it will probably persist for a lot longer than just me making some video about it. All right, well, folks, thanks for your time, and from beautiful Colorado, let me wish you all the best. Now let me make a quick PSA here. I know many people are, and I'm flattered that many people are interested in coming to the University of Colorado to study with me or take my classes. But remember, as discussed in several videos, I am leaving the Nordic program at the end of spring 2020, so I will no longer be teaching classes like Norse mythology, Icelandic sagas at CU. If those classes continue to be taught at CU, they'll be taught by somebody else. I will no longer have any association with the Nordic program. I will still be at the University of Colorado in an unpaid position as resident scholar. And hopefully, during this period, I'll have more time to make these videos, which of course reach more people than any classroom ever will. Work on my upcoming translations, such as the Prose Edda, and work on my class in Norse mythology for the grade courses. But please don't come here thinking that I run some Hogwarts for Old Norse. I don't, and you're not going to find that anywhere, actually. There really aren't any good jobs teaching this stuff, and I need to try to make a living. And actually, given the lack of rewards in teaching this stuff in a conventional way in classrooms, I need to take the time away from the classroom to work on these projects that really reach the people that are interested in this stuff, the videos, the books, and now great courses. All right. Well, as always, for beautiful Colorado, let me wish you all the best and good health and the best to you and yours during this whole coronavirus situation in April 2020. All the best.